let's bring in Dr. John Eastman. Dr. Eastman, you're on with Sheriff David Clarke. Thanks for joining us today. Always good to have you with us. So you got Dr. John Eastman, you got Sheriff Clarke with us. John, speaking about judges being overzealous, give us an update. I mean, every time you turn around, some judge somewhere, nobody knows his name, unheard of guy, are like overturning Trump's decisions one after the other, or staying them. I mean, what is the deal with this? When's this end?
Well, look. I mean, this has been in the works for 15 years. It goes back to the Obama administration when Obama started nominating judges not for their judicial disposition or their qualifications, but because they were hardline activists furthering the leftist agenda. And then when Trump was in power in his first administration, in a coordinated effort, the Democrats in key states where both senators were Democrats refused to return their blue slips, which meant any of the Trump nominees could not get through if they were in any way aligned with Trump or the MAGA agenda. And so you end up with these courts like in Boston that are 100% stacked with Obama or Biden judges, or in Baltimore, or in Seattle, or in San Francisco. And the Republicans in the Senate refuse to deal with that obstruction and that tactic that is having a devastating impact on the neutrality of the judiciary. There's a famous Ninth Circuit judge years and years ago who issued rulings contrary to controlling Supreme Court precedent, left and right. And he actually stated one point, the Supreme Court can't take all of my cases. Most of these are going to stick. And that's their mentality. There have been about 300 or 400 lawsuits challenging various President Trump's executive actions. A couple of them challenged open and closed questions of law, but most of them, the actions he were taking were already authorized by controlling Supreme Court precedent, by his authority as the commander-in-chief and chief executive of this nation under Article 2. And these judges are just acting rogue. And the Supreme Court can't take all of them. It's taken about 80 of them up, but it can't take all of them. But they're streamlining taking them up, and they're getting a lot of wins. But in the meantime, they are depriving this president, which means we, the American people who elected him, of the ability to govern according to the agenda that we elected him to govern on. And we ought to be very clear that that's what's going on. Sheriff Clarke, it's a delight to see you and share the stage with you.
No, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. A couple things here. We're talking about political strategy then by Obama and the Democrats, and they're masters of it, because the Republicans could do the same thing when they're in power, and they won't do it. You talk about these blue slips, and this gets into the weeds for a lot of people. I mean, it's like talking about GDP and the economy. Most people, it's going to go right over their heads. And they shouldn't pay attention to it. But the blue slips, guess what? Obama got some of those judges in because Republican senator in a certain state wouldn't blue slip these people. So, your hands are tied by the GOP, for heaven's sakes. One of the biggest problems we have at the Supreme Court level right now, it's not the liberals on the court. It's John Roberts, for heaven's sakes. John Roberts was appointed by George W. Bush to be the Chief Justice. So a lot of times we're our own worst enemy. When I say we, the conservative movement and the GOP are their own worst enemy, for heaven's sakes, that allowed this stuff to go on. And some of this stuff, this extrajudicial stuff that's going on, is in violation of the Constitution. They're co-equal branches, as everybody knows. One branch is not supposed to lord over the other two, but that's what we're seeing right now. But the Congress won't slap the courts down. The Congress could pull the funding of the federal courts, the GOP. There are tactics they could do to get this judiciary back in line. They won't do it. Pull the funding.
Well, and your point that they won't use the blue slip in the way that the Democrats have. they're not willing to overturn the blue slip so that they can use it themselves. But you're absolutely right; they'll never use it in this obstructionist way, and that means we have surrendered the battlefield without
Yeah.
even playing. And I'm reminded of a story that somebody told me. We're in a war with these guys, and they show up to this gunfight with a bazooka, and we show up with a casserole. I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Ineffective tactics, ineffective mindset, plan, just allowing themselves to be walked over when they have control of the Congress. When a
right. And then
Democrat,
they get blamed for it because everybody says, well, they've got control of Congress. So the government shutdown was their fault because they have the White House, the House, and the Senate without anybody getting into the weeds that they don't have the Senate when you have a filibuster rule that requires 60 votes. The Democrats have enough votes to block anything going through there. And they did with an extortionist tactic to basically demand an extra $1 trillion in funding in order to get the government open. And the media and the Democrats are successfully able to lay blame on the Republicans for that. I mean, this is preposterous. And until our guys start calling them out, look, what you said earlier is that Trump can't get through the bad media. I think what he ought to do is take a page from Franklin Roosevelt's playbook. And I think he ought to start having weekly, pick a night, Saturday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday night, whatever. Pick a night, make it consistent. And for the next 3 years, have a fireside chat directly with the American people. And if the American media won't cover it, then he goes straight to X or Truth Social, and he builds an audience of 100 million people watching that every week to get the actual news through the filter. We don't need the surrogates and the cabinet secretaries or spokesmen or anybody else. President Trump does that weekly, and then he goes out on the trail and he holds his rallies. And I think he's a master at taking that message directly to the president. But he also, in my view, needs to recognize he is the president of the United States and not get down into the gutter with the nonsense kind of attacks that are being made against him and responding in kind. He is elevated. He needs to elevate the debate. And I am the president of the United States. I have authority here, and we are protecting the American people by stopping drugs coming in. We are protecting the American people by getting rid of these terrorist gangs. We are protecting the American people by getting rid of the extortionate tariffs that have been imposed on us for decades by our foreign adversaries. And he needs to take that message directly to the American people in the high, elevated tone befitting the office of President of the United States.
yeah, I mean, media has changed, as you know, sir, since Roosevelt. But, with social media, he's very effective there. You got to get some radio in there. I mean, you said pick a Saturday night, and I'm not going to nitpick what you said, but with so many other options on TV for people, they're just going to tune to something else, which is why you got to come at this with from a number of different angles: radio, social media, TV, to
Yep.
get the message.
I agree, let's do a half hour a week, and pick a night that's easy. Don't pick a Saturday night with college football or a Friday night with, Friday night lights or anything like that. Pick a night that's open Tuesday night. Do a
Tuesday
half
night.
hour and then have your media
Nothing
team.
goes on Tuesday night.
Yeah, then have your media team put it out on radio, have your media team draw clips and put a number of clips up on social media, and then have the surrogates out there magnifying the message, and do that consistently between now and next November, and then don't stop. Keep going all the way to 2028.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. I love that. That's the best idea I've heard.
I want to come back
Solid
quickly
idea.
to something else that you said, and talking about the rules of the House and the rules of the Senate. Look, it was Harry Reid, if you recall, that changed the appointment of the district court level judges to just needing 51%. Remember, he did that? And that's when Obama was able to flood the courts with his nominations when they were in charge of the Congress, the Senate, who makes those determinations, or the checks and balances. Harry Reid did that, for heaven's sakes, and a lot of people have forgotten about that. So then why Republicans are so afraid of getting rid of this filibuster. And I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't, but the president wants them to. And it's his party. He's in charge. He is the Republican Party's standard bearer right now. And if that's what he wants, and it's not so, I mean, if he comes in with something crazy, I expect the Senate. And that's what this co-equal branches is about, so that some foolishness can't happen. But changing the rules to get something done, and people say, well, when the Democrats get in, then they'll be able to do this without 60 votes. Well, you know what? That's called politics, for heaven's sakes. That's the way this thing should work.
If you govern and get things done, the Democrats aren't going to get in. That's
Right.
the whole point from the
Exactly.
beginning. I mean,
Exactly.
they are going to get in when you do nothing and pass nothing and can't get your appointments in, and you can't get, you can't keep the government open. That's where they're going to win. They don't win because if you do something and take offense, you're going to keep control of the Senate. So they're doing everything to lose. And you sit here and you say they're just more comfortable being in the minority with no say. They go on Fox News, they can go on Newsmax, they can bitch and complain, and then they get safely reelected. They keep their jobs.
Yeah.
They're not accountable.
I think it's even worse than that, John. It's a money laundering operation. There's trillions of dollars at stake. And when the Republicans are in them, and it's divided kind of pretty close to 50-50. If you're in the majority, you might get up to 52% of those trillions and instead of 48. But if you're in the minority, you only get 48, but you get none of the heat and focus. And and you see it play out in these omnibus bills. And that you do temporary funding increases for COVID, and then all of a sudden that baseline is locked in at $1 trillion more than it had been. They are bankrupting. One of the reasons the young people are so frustrated in this country is we have bankrupted this country, and we're imposing that debt. Right now, every American citizen, child born in this country, is $100,000 in debt before they even get out of the womb. And our people in Washington, D.C. are doing nothing about it. Look, one of the key functions of an executive is to enforce the law, particularly the criminal law. And most of the U.S. attorneys in this country are Biden holdovers because the Democrats won't return blue slips. And they're not able to get. Then you end up with this fiasco of Trump putting in interim people and these rogue judges saying, well, they're not allowed to serve more than 120 days. Only the court can appoint prosecutors to then appear before the court. This is an egregious violation of separation of powers, this statutory scheme that has been set up. And it's handcuffing the president from the ability to execute the law in one of the core executive functions that exists, which is prosecutions. We got to fix this. And, the Republicans in the Senate have the power to do it if they only have the will. And, I think everybody in your audience ought to be calling their senators and saying, get off the dime, do it now. When you come back after Christmas break in January, if you don't have this stuff fixed by the end of January, then God help you next time you have to run for election, because we're done. We're not tolerating it anymore. You've got to start acting to get these problems fixed now.
Sheriff Clarke?
I can't do any better than what was just said, for heaven's sakes. We all know what the issues are. I mean, something as simple as the Congress won't even pass where, this law where their members can't benefit from day trading. All right. They set the policies on a lot of this stuff, and then they're out there taking advantage of it. That's how they're enriching themselves, for heaven's sakes. They don't want to get rid of that. So, we sit here, we throw up our hands. At some point, people just bail out of the process. You and I will stay in it. We'll keep fighting. But the average person, the people who we need to come out and vote at election time, it's their vote. They don't have to vote. A lot of times you'll hear people say, you have to vote. You don't have to vote. That's up to you. It's your vote. You do what you want with it. If they haven't motivated you enough to come out and do it, that's not the voters' fault. I don't blame the voters. I blame the elected officials. I blame the candidates. You didn't motivate this person. Don't blame them for not voting. Blame yourself. Look in the mirror and say, you know what? I didn't motivate this person. I didn't connect with them. I didn't say the right things. We didn't do the right. I've been in office for a while. I'm an incumbent, and I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And so that's on the candidate, not the voter. I'm done blaming the voters for this stuff.
Yep. No, their answer is, well, we sent a letter. We sent a letter
Yeah.
telling them don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Look, there ought to be impeachment hearings over in the House on every one of these rogue judges. There's zero chance that they're going to get convicted in the Senate because it takes a 2/3 vote. But they ought to be made to go through the process and highlight what's going on. They need to get rid of the COVID surplus funding because it's bankrupting us. We're $38 trillion in debt right now. Maybe the clock's ticked over 39 trillion. I can't keep up with it. What's the old line? Bankruptcy comes slowly at first, and then all of a sudden. We're getting close to the all of a sudden moment in this country, and it will not be pretty. And we can fix it.
I can attest to that, having lived through it with me and my family.
Yeah.
What did you say again? It comes slowly, and then
it creeps up slowly, and then all of a sudden.
It's like one day. It's not all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's one day when they foreclose on your home and take your car, and they take everything you own and garnish all your savings, and you have no money and no credit and nowhere to live and nothing and no job. It comes in one day, and that's what's going to happen. I went through it one day. So takes a long time, and then it's over one day. So you got that nailed. Guys, thank you for being with us today. Great discussion. John, people want to follow you, reach you. Where do they go?
They can go to my legal defense fund site, givesendgo.com/Eastman. And we won a big one in Georgia a couple of weeks ago, the day before Thanksgiving. That case was finally dismissed, but we're still fighting the criminal charges in Arizona and the California bar recommendation of disbarment in California with this nonsense lawfare. So please help. Givesendgo.com/Eastman. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, John Eastman.
Merry Christmas.
Sheriff Clarke, you can follow him at what's your
AmericaSheriff.com.
That's right, AmericaSheriff.com. Your Cowboys are out. See ya. Sheriff, pick the winner of the college football playoffs. Who's going to be the championship? Who's going to be a champion?
What did you ask?
Champion, college football.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I'm picking Georgia.
Me too. I got 6-1. Not bad.
I think Indiana is going to surprise a lot of people. We'll see.
Screw Indiana. Screw the Hoosiers. Screw the Colts. Screw the Pacers. Screw the Indiana Senate. Screw them all.
Yeah, the Indiana Senate. How about that?
I now hate Indiana. I hope they lose. I hope the Colts lose out. I hope Indiana gets beat the first round. I hope the Pacers lose 10 in a row. I hope all the senators get primaried and lose.
Tell us what you really think about it, John.
Screw Indiana.
Take care, everybody.
Michael Patrick Leahy next.